Good morning, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton, and I'm the Executive Director of San Antonio Charter Moms. And these are Charter Moms Chats. And we've been going live on weekdays to talk about what families need to know to make it through distance learning and what enrichment activities they can do with their kids at home. And I'm so excited to have Colleen Ferguson, who's the Director of Public Programs at the Witte Museum here in San Antonio. And there's a post on the blog today, and it's linked in the description of the video. And it's about these activities that they've been doing ever since March called Witte Where You Are. And it's a great effort that they're making to present, like, the Witte's mission about culture and history and nature in ways that families can enjoy from home. So we're featuring a particular activity on the blog today, and Colleen's going to talk to us about it. So Colleen, can you tell us more about how the Witte has adapted to the pandemic to still carry out its mission? How does that work?
Of course. So just like everybody else, back in March, we all were kind of surprised when everything took a turn. And so we did close our doors for March or end of March and April, but we worked really hard to find a safe way to reopen because we are here for the community. We're here as a public gathering space. We have a really large campus, so there's lots of room to spread out. So we enacted a task force, and we got our doors open at the end of May with enhanced cleaning measures, styluses so that you can still interact with the screens and interactives, and just making sure we're all wearing face coverings and social distancing. So we worked really hard to make sure that it was still a safe place to come. And then we also decided to, in the interim, launch some virtual content called Witte Where You Are. So we focus on all of our amazing curators and education aspects here at the museum. We're all about Texas through time. So we talk about the past of Texas, the future of Texas, and Texas currently, and through nature, science, culture, all of that good stuff. And so we just created a video series as a team, and it has been up on our website with activities and ways that families can get involved with the Witte at home.
Yeah, and there's so much there. Partly because the Witte covers so many cool broad things, right? So I guess the gallery where you are now is all about different ecosystems in Texas and the natural life, that the plants and animals that are there, right? But there's stuff about dinosaurs, and there's stuff about the native peoples of Texas, and and things about San Antonio history and fiesta, and just all kinds of things.
Yeah, and we also have a big focus on health too, because that's the future of Texas, making sure our communities stay healthy. So it's been really exciting to be able to dive into all the aspects that make the Witte so special, and bring it to families' homes during this, time of uncertainty.
Yeah, so I'm going to show people. So the series is called Witte Where You Are. So there it is on the banner, and it's very easy to get to from the homepage. But this is the URL if you just want to type this in on your browser, and it takes you to a whole screen full of activities. But the one we're focusing on today, the one that we've linked on the blog, is about the bird bingo, right? And so I was wondering if you could tell us more about that one. And I'm going to try to reconnect my screen so I can show. To show that. But so why did y'all decide to do the backyard birding as a topic for an at-home activity?
So, birding is actually one of my favorite things. It's one of my passions, and it fits really well with our Texas Wild Gallery here at the museum, which is where I'm sitting right now. You can see we've got a deer behind me. This gallery focuses on the ecoregions of Texas and the amazing wildlife that's right here in our own backyard. Because a lot of times, with families and children, when we think about animals, we think about animals that live far away from us. Those big iconic animals. But we do have some really incredible animals right here in Texas, and we actually have a huge variety of birds, and many of them can be seen right here in San Antonio. And so this activity encourages families to get outside and use those powers of observation to see what birds you notice. A lot of times birds are just part of our daily life. We see them in passing, but we have so many different species, and if you really stop to take a look, you never know which one you're going to see. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Okay.
I was just going to explain the bird bingo board here. So, it acts kind of like a bingo board, but instead of 5 letters, there's only 4 because you have to spell bird. And we, instead of doing different species, we wanted to make it accessible to even our youngest audiences. And so it's really more about finding a bird that's making a sound, or smaller than a soccer ball, bigger than a soccer ball, flying, perched on a wire. And then from there, with your family, you can, develop extensions beyond that to suit your family's needs and your learning styles.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to mention, we're not, you can find it either clicking on the, Witte Where You Are, or through the blog post, but there's a great YouTube video that you made where you talk about the activity, like what you love about being outside, what you love about birding, and, strategies for how to use it and stuff. And I feel like a video like that is a really great introduction for families who maybe have this idea of like, oh, birding, that's interesting, but how do I get started? Like, what's the on-ramp for this? How, yeah. And the video you made, I think is very, it's very accessible. It makes it like, it takes the scariness out of it. Like, well, what if I mess this up? It's like, don't worry about messing up. Just try it. Just get out there.
Yeah. No, that's great. That was the whole, the whole goal of it. Connecting with nature is something that we're really big about here at the Witte, because there's just so much good that can come from nature. It's great for our mental and physical health. It's great for learning and discovering new things, and really sparking the imagination. And so any chance to get outside, even in Texas in the hot summer, going out and birding in the morning when it's a little bit cooler, or later in the evening. I mean, even those times you're going to see totally different birds. So it can be done even in the Texas summer.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to bring it back to our faces. And then I wanted to ask you more about, so one of the great things about, like, as you were adapting, the Witte Where You Are bird bingo activity for, our structure is, like, one thing we want to do is make it accessible to families with kids of lots of different ages. And so, you offered suggestions about how would you adapt it for preschoolers, and how would you adapt it for like elementary school age, and then also for middle school, high schoolers. And so I was wondering if, like, for each of those age ranges, if you would talk about, like, just like, tips for parents, and like, what did you include in the blog post as a way, to make birding more accessible for kids in that age group. So how about the preschoolers?
Of course. So with our preschoolers, our young ones, one of the best ways we've discovered to really engage kids in bird watching, or nature watching in general outside at that age, is to use your 5 senses, because young children are very aware. We see, we smell, we hear, we taste, we feel, and really bringing those outside and using those to search for birds. So taking a moment, finding a nice, shady, quiet spot to sit, and asking your preschooler, okay, what do you hear? Let's take 10 seconds and just listen, and then talk about what you hear, and go through those senses. Although outside bird watching, tasting, probably we can leave that sense to the side.
Right.
And then the other
go ahead.
I was just going to say, the other thing with preschoolers too that can be really effective is using scientific tools, or learning how to start using scientific tools. So if you have a pair of child binoculars, that's great. But even we like to make binoculars out of craft tubes, and a little yarn, something simple that they can put up to their eyes, and have that experience and that practice with using binoculars, even if it's not actually magnifying anything.
Right. That's a great, like, skill about how, like, kids love to imitate what their older peers or what adults are doing, and it's a great learning strategy for them. They get to act like the grown-ups, and and it's an on-ramp to this idea that you use these tools for a particular purpose. And I think what you talked about earlier about when you're using your senses, like in order to listen, it means that the child herself has to be still for a minute. And that's an important skill, because it's learning some self-restraint, to instead of just always acting on impulse, it's like to, hold yourself still for a minute, and to see, be observant about what's around you.
Exactly. And then having that focus to be able to think about only one thing rather than all the stimulus that's around us, especially when we're outside. But like what do we see? We're not thinking about what we hear right now. We're thinking about what we see, you know, and going through that. It is, you're right, on-ramp is a really great way to describe it.
Yeah. So, okay, so for elementary age children, that section, we have a few links, and like, so like I'll bring it back on screen, but the way you constructed the bingo card, it's more things about like characteristics or behaviors or things you observe about the bird. But what adult birders do is like they're trying to identify what particular species that they're seeing.
Exactly.
So what resources do you suggest for that, like for older kids?
So for our older kids, getting into the identification of birds can be a lot of fun. It's kind of like a game of Where's Waldo. I really enjoy it. But a few great resources, especially for Texas. Texas Parks and Wildlife has some free resources online that I believe we linked in the blog that you can check out that show pictures and descriptions of the birds, where you're likely to see them. So that is a really great resource. And then another one that I didn't mention in the blog, but is also really great if you have a smartphone, the Audubon app. You can actually sort by size and color and tail shape so that it can help narrow down those birds that you're seeing. But the Texas Parks and Wildlife one, they should have, it's a pretty comprehensive list for the birds that we'll see in our backyards.
Yeah. And I think for, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and when it comes to identifying them, it takes a little bit of practice, and it can be sometimes a little bit frustrating. But it's if you are out with your family and you're turning it more into a game, like, okay, what are all the things that we notice that might help us identify it? You know, shapes, colors, feather patterns, beak sizes, anything that will help. And then it's just like anything else, it's a skill that takes time to build. And after a while, you'll probably notice that you'll start to recognize and be able to identify those birds that you've already worked together to find as a family. So it can lead to other conversations down the road.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think one of the things that can be sort of discouraging, I guess, about the pandemic is that like it feels like we have time on our hands, like because so many things that we used to do got taken off the schedule, and so it's like, well, now what? And and sometimes it feels nice to have just sort of unstructured time, but then it also feels good to have like a goal and something to work towards, and then a sense of like achievement of like, hey, I learned this new skill. And I think for kids, if they maybe like a few months from now, they're out on a walk and they're realizing, I do know what that bird is. I know what that bird call is. I see those feathers. And then that can give them a sense of competency and like that they've achieved something. And that's that's worthwhile. It builds confidence. Yeah.
For sure. And then also, with being inside during this pandemic, we've been encouraged to get outside and you go for family walks and things like that, and that's been deemed safe and good for us and our mental health and our physical well-being. But after a while, walking around the neighborhood can get redundant, right? So, but if you have a goal, you go out, like, maybe we'll find a new bird today. Let's keep our eyes open. That end goal can really help the whole process.
Yeah. Having goals, it gives you something to look forward to. And it may be sort of contrived, like we're inventing this structure, we're inventing goals, but I think psychologically it works the same way, for us, and it's a good mood lifter when it feels like there's so many things outside our control.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. At this time, I feel like there's no wrong way to learn and to discover as a family. We're all just doing our best to make it through.
Yeah. So one thing a link that I added to the blog post after y'all sent me the draft was we had published a post earlier in the summer about the Greenway trails in San Antonio, and those have been open consistently throughout the pandemic, and they are free and they're very family friendly. And so that's like I think one thing that y'all mentioned in the post was that depending on where you go in town, there are different microclimates or different ecosystems, and different types of terrain, right? So like if you go to like the Salado Creek Greenway is so long, right? So like up on the north side, it's like a hill country ecosystem, and then it goes all the way down into almost like a coastal plains ecosystem, we need to get down to like Southside Lions Park. So you might see different birds
Yeah,
in different parts of the same greenway.
that's that's one of the things we talk about here at the Witte with everyone that that comes through our doors. You know, San Antonio is such a unique location. We are actually at the intersection of 3 different ecoregions, so 3 different unique habitats for animals. And so, like behind me, I'm sitting in front of the South Texas thorn brush, and there's a variety of birds and other animals that live there. But you know, just like you were saying, we also have the Hill Country ecoregion, and that's going to have a whole host of different animals and birds that it supports. So, you know, working as a family to discover new places in our own community and in different ecoregions, it can be actually really exciting.
Yeah, we've noticed it just a little bit, like, or yeah, like if you go to the south side, you'll see more palm trees along the creek sides, and you don't see palm trees up in like Bernie. You see maple trees, but not
Yeah,
palm trees. Yeah,
exactly. And you know,
great.
we talk about in the video, whenever you are outside, birds look for places to hide. They need the same things that we all need to survive. So food, water, and shelter. But that food, water, and shelter is going to look different based on whatever species the bird is. So if you're moving to different areas that have different sources of food or water or shelter, like palm trees or maple trees, you're going to see something new.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I hope your enthusiasm for this is contagious, and I hope that other. Oh, I shouldn't use the word contagious these days, but but no, but let's spread ideas, not germs, right? And
Yes,
and
yes.
I think that's what I hope families can take away from this activity, and then like the other activities we have, like so like if you go to it's Charter of Voyage of Learning is what we're calling kind of the year-round set of activities. And yeah, I just hope families click around, and we have it kind of organized by topic, and so I grouped this birding activity. It's in the outdoor activities, and it's also grouped with the science activities. So if you're looking for more outdoor activities, we have those, and then we also have like other science activities. But some of them are chemistry, and some of them are physics, and like magnets or mixing stuff, making foam and things like that. So but yeah,
How
and I
fun.
miss. Gosh, I mean, like at the Witte, you guys have had such good like demonstrations. You have such good like like teaching scientists, right? Who like they'll talk about nutrition, or they'll mix chemicals together. And I remember like back when I homeschooled my son's in 8th grade now, but back when he was in 1st grade, I homeschooled him, and we would go to the Witte probably like every week, just about. And then we'd see field trip, groups of kids on field trips coming through the museum, and or we go to the front desk and get the schedule of like when the demonstrations were happening, so we could see those and participate in those, or like the cooking demonstrations, right, like in the kitchen in the treehouse or things like that. And I'm looking
Exactly. So
forward
that's
to.
what we're trying to
Yeah.
bring, online to you, to directly to your homes, because it's such like an ingrained part of who we are at the Witte, and we just, especially when our doors were closed, we did not want to see that, come to a halt. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, we just, it's our blood and soul here.
Yeah, yeah. I think one thing about the Witte, I mean, has such a great location, in Breckenridge Park, right on the San Antonio River, and there are a lot of outdoor spaces on the grounds of the Witte, right? So like there's like old houses and like the Underdog Studio, and like there's so there's outdoor spaces at the Witte as well, and that's something we've been looking forward to. Is we still have our membership, so I'm going to do a plug for anybody who's listening. If you don't already have a family membership, it's a really good value because it gives you free admission every time, and you get access to like members only activities. You get discounts at the museum store. Oh, which I meant to mention. So actually, families can buy, like if you're looking for a bird guide, they have those at the museum store, right?
They do. They do. They have several different types of bird guides. My favorite one is Birds of Central Texas. I have it at home as well, so I can identify the birds in my backyard. But yeah, it's just like a simple folded pamphlet that is laminated, so you can take it out even if it's wet. And it has a ton of different species in it, and makes it really easy to identify the different birds.
Yeah, that's a great learning, because when you're just learning, you need to be able to like look at the bird, look at the guide, look at the bird, look at the guide, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, the pictures are really helpful.
Yeah. Well, I want to be sure and that we communicate with families about like sort of what is the status of things at the Witte, and sort of what are ways that they can enjoy what the Witte has to offer. ways that, we can support the Witte to make sure that the Witte also survives the pandemic. I guess, folks they can go to the website, they can check the museum hours, right? What's
Yeah.
some good advice for families?
So we are open. We remain open right now from about 10 to 5 every day, noon to 5 on Sundays. And with all of our enhanced cleaning protocols and safety measures in place. And like I mentioned earlier, our grounds are very large, so there's plenty of room to spread out. Like you mentioned, we have quite a bit of outdoor space, so there's spaces to come and like picnic for lunch and explore the different galleries. It's been a really actually nice time for families to come, because you can see that they're really getting to take their time and explore and still stay distanced from everyone else. But coming to the museum, purchasing a family membership is always a great way to support us. If you're not quite comfortable leaving your house yet, that's okay. Engaging with Witte Where You Are is a great way to help support us as well. Or even making a one-time donation to the Witte is always helpful, because as a nonprofit, along with all the other nonprofits in the community, it's always a struggle when times are like this, to make sure that we're able to keep doing what we're doing, and those donations really go a long way.
Yeah. No, I've watched the Witte go through such a transformation, because, like I said, I think we first got a family membership when my kids were little bitty. We just needed more room. I wanted room for them to run around where I knew they weren't going to run into the street. Because there's just so much space. It's like, and my kids needed exercise every day, and so we were looking for safe places to walk. And then when it's hot outside, the Witte is always nice and cool. So really appreciate that.
Yes, the air conditioning. The air conditioning is great. And then we're also right along the river, so we have lots of shaded areas to sit and enjoy the river, and it's usually a little cooler over there as well. So lots to see and do.
Trees.
And yes, some of them really old too. We have so much history here at the Witte. But we're still here for the community if you're ready to come and see us, and there's other ways like Witte Where You Are to get involved if you're still at home.
Yeah. Well, great. I am Colleen. I'm so thankful that y'all we put this birding activity into a blog post that we can share, and I'm so proud to be partnering with the Witte on this and be able to spread the word about Witte Where You Are, because this is consistent with our mission of we're encouraging families to take control of their children's education, whether it's choosing what school they put them in, whether it's choosing homeschooling, if they choose distance learning or on-campus learning. We want to provide them with the information and the tools that they need. And we're going to print out some bird bingo cards and go when we I think we're planning another state park visit this weekend. That's what we've been doing a lot of. So if anyone checks Inga M. Cotton on Instagram, you'll see a lot of state parks pictures. That's a lot of what we've been doing.
That's so great.
Sometimes for each particular park, the Texas Parks will have a guide to the birds of that park, right? So they have the backyard guide that we link to in the post. But if you're going to a particular park, right, like Lost Maples or Hill Country State Natural Area or something, you might find like a park specific birding guide on the Texas Parks and Wildlife page. That's a little
which is really helpful, because I was just going to say there are a couple state parks here in our area that have endangered species of birds, so rare sightings at some of the particular parks. So that's perfect.
Right, like the golden cheek warbler, the black-capped vireo, right? Government Canyon is habitat for both of those endangered birds, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, all the things you can learn, folks. This is this is good stuff. It makes me. I'm always thankful for the Witte Museum, or for just like the quality and the excellence, and for how you guys spread really good knowledge through the community, through not just San Antonio but all of South Texas, and really showing leadership on this. So, and I'm so thankful that you guys are adapting to the pandemic so well. Really grateful for that.
Well, thank you, and thank you for what you do and for letting us join you today, because we love any chance to connect with our community, and opportunities like this. We love them. So thank you for having us today.
Well, I really appreciate it. Okay, do you have any closing thoughts or like encouragement of like, okay, families, this weekend, go try this?
Well, I would say that, as we move into school and things get a little bit more hectic, my biggest you know, as an education specialist, my biggest piece of advice to families is to just keep fostering inquiry and questions. You know, we can get so caught up in a routine or, you know, everything that's going on in the world, but don't forget to just ask questions. Let your kids ask questions about what they see, what they're interested in. Ask them questions, because the questions, you know, drives that inquiry, and that inquiry will help drive all that learning.
Yeah, that is such a great message. I'm gonna hold on to that as we navigate distance learning. Thank you so much, Colleen.
No problem. Thank you for having us.
Okay, take care.